Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. A very warm welcome to the AAA mock debrief for the June 2025 exam, which was published by ACCA, and I am your tutor, Kashif Kamran. Today is the session one of the debrief, and in this debrief, I'll be investigating the section B of the paper. Now, in terms of the section B of the paper, I'll be showing you some answers of the student, and I'll be having my own opinion on those answers to tell you what was done good and what was done bad. Now, let's first open the first question we had in section B. I'll be showing you that on the practice platform even. But just let's first look at the summary of the issues I found from the first question inside the section B. That's the question number 2. The question number 2, part A, required students to discuss the objective of an audit firm system of quality and how ISQM1 will help achieve those objectives. And this question was for 8 marks. And it was written under the question in the note that you're not required to refer to any exhibit. So that was telling you that this is a pure knowledge question coming from ISQM1. We know examining team is very fond of putting questions around quality management in recent past papers. Even I have told you so many times that the articles on ISQM1 and the articles on ISQM2 are very important. You should read them because there are lots of things in both the articles which can still be examined for knowledge. So please ensure you still have time to read through them. Look at this question. This question was asking two things, and the problem with the student was they only focused on one. The first thing the question was asking was to discuss the objective of a firm system of quality management. So the examining team was asking you the objectives of the system of quality management. What is the objective of the quality management system? Then there was a big and that's the problem with the student. They overlooked this word and. And then after the and, the examining team was asking how ISQM1 will help achieve those objectives. So the objectives are to be put in the first part, then how ISQM1 will help achieve those objectives. And you had 8 marks. Now technically, you're writing 8 points for this answer. Now you can split the marks. Discussing the objective can give you 2 marks because in that objective, you can discuss 2 important objectives of the quality management system in one paragraph. And you can keep 2 marks for discussing the objective. And then you can keep 6 marks for telling how ISQM1 will help achieve those objectives. So you can gain those 8 easy marks. But the problem with the student was mostly student ignored the objective. The students saw 8 marks. They recalled that under ISQM1, the system of quality management has 8 components. They started telling that the system of quality management has 8 components 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, the question was not asking you the components of ISQM1. The question was asking you what's the objective of the quality management system and how the ISQM1 help achieve those objectives. Yes, when you're writing help achieve those objectives, you could have made use of the 8 components, but you had only 6 marks for that. So writing all the 8 components was useless. You could have written any 6 of them to make up the answer for how ISQM1 help achieve those objectives. But lots of students just mention the 8 components of system of quality management without any relevance to objective or without even knowing what the question was asking. And probably the students normally underperform on knowledge areas. And the first and the foremost reason of that is that despite the tutor reminding you to read articles, the student are not bothered about reading through the articles. If you have read the ISQM1 article, they have given the objective. They've even given how the system, how the quality management standard address those objectives. So the problems with this question was generally students struggle with this part or left it unattended. Now, I've checked almost 162 mock papers for my AAA batch. Now, in those 162 mock papers, I found more than 50% scripts with unattended question number two, part A, or the students struggle with it. Either they just put the eight components of system of quality management, they only put two or three and they left it blank because they were not sure what to do here. So knowledge from the recent articles are important for exam papers, and knowledge from the new articles can pop up like this example anytime. Like for example, uh, benefit of data analytics, challenges of data analytics. Knowledge can pop up in exam. Benefits, challenges, or even the question on your screen currently. So a question like such, and how many times I have emphasized on reading ISQM 1 and 2, because there are plenty of knowledge areas in both the articles which can pop up. So please, you still have 72 hours before exams. I hope you'll do justice. I'll show you a student answer to this requirement, and I'll also show you my answer because this was a struggling part. So if any part is struggling, I'll write my answer. If the part was not struggling, I'll show you a good student answer, and then I will tell you how you can improve upon. The second part of the same question, the part B, asks students to evaluate the quality management and ethical issues that have arisen in respect of the audit of the pumpkin group for 12 marks. Now, this part was done excellent. The students were fully versed with identifying the quality management issues. They were fully versed with identifying the ethical issues. In all the 162 mocks I have checked, I found this to be the strongest 12 marks answer in almost all the scripts. Yes, the way of writing differed from a student to student. The depth differ from student to student. Some used headings, some did not use headings. Some elaborated an issue on like 3 to 4 sentences. Some elaborated the issue on 2 to 3 sentences. Some give conclusion, some did not give conclusion. Now, these are immaterial things. But the major part was answering the 12 marks requirement, which almost every student did well. This part was well performed by majority of the student, with student picking up the issues and explaining them well. The scenario was very productive for issues to be picked up. There were plenty and student had no difficulty going with it. Quality management issues questions are a very dominating part of the recent exam papers, and the student should have good practice around it. This is one of the favorite area of your examining team and still quite potential for the June 25 exams coming up. So part B was very, very soothing, but part A was difficult. Let me show you some student answers and then show you my answer to the part A, because part B, I'll be sharing a student answer with you because I've got some excellent answers written by the student. Okay, just let's get back quickly to the practice platform. Just have a glimpse of this question from the practice platform first. I hope you can all see the practice platform on your screen. Please confirm that in the chat box. Can you all see the practice platform on your screen? Okay, thank you so much for that confirmation. Okay, let's go on into the section B, right? We're starting with the section B, the 50-mark section divided into 2 questions. Okay, this is the question number 2. Now, this question number 2 was telling us that it is the 1st of July. You are a manager in the quality department of Carrot and Company. So you are a manager in the quality department of Carrot and Company, the audit firm, a medium-sized firm of chartered certified accountant offering a range of audit and related services, right? So you are a manager in the quality management department of Carrot. Right now, you have been asked to evaluate the matters to audit quality and the firm system of quality management with reference to the audit of Pumpkin Group, a listed company. So you are asked to evaluate the quality management matters which have arose in the audit of Pumpkin Group, a listed group. Such an important one, right? Now, we have been given the exhibit on the left-hand side, which is the exhibit 1, which contains the scenario, and then we have the requirements. Now, I've shown you the requirements, so I'll not spend much time here. The problem, again, I've identified that the students looking at the requirement one, it was very clearly written. You are not required to refer to any exhibit. So that was a knowledge-based question, but student did made a mess of this answer because most of the student did not discuss the objective of the quality management system. They were just into a scattergun approach of writing the SOQM, the system of quality management, and the eight component. Was the question asking you to write the system of quality management and the eight components? Was the question saying you explain the eight components of system of quality management? Why don't you read the question carefully? I don't understand that. This is something being emphasized in my regular classes, even when I do my practice with you, that you have to pay attention to the question and particularly look at the comma and. Despite the fact the student ignore the word and they thought the question is asking for eight components of SOQM. Number two, this part, evaluate the ethical quality management and ethical issues that have arisen in respect of pumpkin. This was a 12 marks question. So ideally, you have to write 12 points. Now, one clarification which has been repeatedly asked for in the WhatsApp group is whether the question asks you to write actions or whether the question does not ask you to write actions, you need to write actions. This is a frequently asked question that should we write actions? Should we not write actions? You have to write actions in every quality management question, in every ethical issue question, or in every ethical and professional issue question, irrespective whether the examining team is asking for it or not. So when you are writing the 12 marks not just includes the issues, it also includes actions. So the total points you're writing is 12. Okay, now just let's emphasize on how would you have gone by doing it. If you open up this exhibit, which is telling us about the quality management issues, I hope you can see that on your screen. This is the exhibit, right, which tells us about the quality management issues. It says to the quality management team, Carrot Company, from an auditor at the rate anonymous.com. So an anonymous auditor is emailing the manager, the quality manager at Carrot Company, date and issues in the recent audit of Pumpkin. So he's trying to raise the issues in the audit of Pumpkin to the manager who's looking after the quality management, and he's giving him an email. Hello, I wish to bring to your attention some issues that I've experienced while auditing the Pumpkin Group as part of the large audit team. I don't feel that the group partner, Kinga, is approachable on matters, and furthermore, some of the issues relate to her behavior during the audit. So right up front, he's telling the quality manager, sorry, that it was very difficult to approach Kinga and her behavior was not very good for the conduct of this Pumpkin Group audit, which is a large group and a listed group. So that's the first issue, right? This is like a leadership flaw because the leader has to be approachable, the partner has to be approachable to listen to the issues, to resolve the issues, and to guide you and to facilitate you throughout the audit. You know, the purpose of the leadership is to give you direction and supervision. So, probably with that sentence, that leadership, that direction, or that supervision was a missing element. Now, let's look at the issues this person has highlighted. Number one issue in the case of the Turnip Company. Now, Turnip Company is a subsidiary, right, of the Pumpkin Group. Let's see what issues has he find in Turnip Company. Turnip Company was a newly acquired subsidiary during the year and operates as a specialist jewelry manufacturer, a newly acquired subsidiary. You know how important it is when you're planning the group audit. You have to pay attention to a newly acquired subsidiary. We know a newly acquired subsidiary, if you look at an ISA 600 revised, we know ISA 600 revised is not dealing with the quantitative thresholds anymore. The ISA 600 revised is dealing with the qualitative thresholds. So it's a newly acquired subsidiary, so that's really important. So any subsidiary acquired during the year, you have to pay particular attention to it. And they are involved in specialist jewelry manufacturers using precious metals and expensive gemstones. Now, you know that's very difficult to value. So, inventory valuation would be a risky area, would be a challenging area, because probably the audit team will not have the expertise to value metals and expensive gemstones. Now, that's an area where you have to use an expert. The audit team has been using the standardized audit test from an outside provider, which were not customized for any area of turnip audit, including the high value inventory of precious metals and gemstone. How interesting is that? You're just using the standardized uh, audit test, which you have taken from any outside provider, not even developed by the audit firm themselves, and which were not customized for any area of turnip, including the high value inventory of precious metals and gemstone. Now, first of all, we know you have to customize your audit test. You have to customize your procedures, or you have to tailor your procedures according to the requirements or characteristics or risk of a particular entity. Now, turnip had a particular risk. First, it was recently acquired. And secondly, they're dealing with inventory, which is very complex, which is very difficult to value. So you would have paid attention to that, but probably the attitude of Kinda, which was mentioned in the first paragraph, is very clearly reflected here, that what sort of a behavior the partner is demonstrating. They didn't bothered about uh, tailoring the audit test or audit procedures according to the turnip situation. So that's another problem. Then next, during the audit team briefing, at the planning stage, you know, team briefing takes place at the planning stage. The group engagement partner, Kinda, stated that the valuation of inventory was to be treated as low risk across all subsidiaries, consistent with the assessment made in prior year. So look at the statement of the partner, quite a shocking statement. He's saying that we have to treat the inventory valuation across all subsidiaries as a low risk area in line with the assessment made in the prior year. Every year, you need to reassess. You cannot just go with the previous year assessments. Every year, you have to reassess. Every year, you have to reassess whether inventory is or is not a risky area. And irrespective, you know, inventory is a risky area because inventory has valuation and valuation has a risk, lower of cost and NRV. So each year, inventory is an area of risk because valuation is a very key assertion. And this year around, Turnip was dealing in the jewelry manufacturing, and the metals and expensive gemstones was a very risky inventory in terms of the valuation. So the judgment of the partner is questionable here. Again, the leadership qualities are questionable, that who made Kinga, the engagement partner. This included the inventory of turnip, and there was no need to authorize the expense of using a jewelry valuation expert. So have they used a jewelry valuation expert? No, because there was no need to authorize the expense of using jewelry valuation expert. So they're not incurring any expert on hiring an expert or using an expert. How strange that is, considering we're dealing with a complex inventory. Kinga stated that she had been the auditor of Pumpkin for 10 years. So she had been the auditor for 10 years and she's so confident about everything. She believes she knows everything about Pumpkin, and that's a very, very wrong approach. 10 years, right? All of you picked up this as a familiarity thread. All of you identified that 10 years is a too long period. Kinga has become sympathetic, and probably her behavior is demonstrating how sympathetic she is towards the Pumpkin management as a whole. She should have been rotated after 7 years. So she has already gone 3+ years beyond 7. So that's a significant familiarity thread because it relates to an engagement partner. So you're writing the ethical issues and the safeguards. During the initial audit briefing, Kinga stated that she would be too busy to respond to the audit queries that anyone, to audit queries that anyone with access to an internet search engine should be able to answer. So she is saying that I'll be too busy responding to your queries. Please don't ask any queries to me. Rather than you can go up to the search engines and check out your answers to the queries. Look at the leadership flaw here. You are the partner. You are the one to give direction. You are the one to supervise. You are the one to give the right set of judgments. You're not giving that. 10 years being the partner, you have become too sympathetic that you're not even using your skeptical mindset. You're not even demonstrating the due care required in the audit of a listed group. So Kinga behavior is really questionable, right? Because she's not even exercising the due care. She's not even exercising the right judgments. She's not even bothered about fulfilling her duty of direction and supervision. Since the audit briefing, no one from the team was able to contact the partner. Look at the lack of communication. You know, information and communication is one of an important component of the system of quality management, and there is no communication taking place between the team and the partner. Then what's the sense of doing the audit? Now, so many issues under Turnip, one of the subsidiary of Pumpkin. Let's look at the second subsidiary, which is the Yam company. During my work on Yam, another of the Pumpkin subsidiary, the group engagement partner informed the team that due to time pressure on the audit, they would review the working papers on each other, working paper on each team member's individual computers. So, because of the lack of time, the partner is telling that the working papers will be reviewed on each team member individual computers. Now, probably what I believe here is that, first of all, we are not allowed to use our personal computers on a client. We should have computers which belongs to the audit firm. If I take my own personal laptop to the audit and I'll save all the information in my laptop and I'll use all the ledgers and the trial balance and all the information of the client in my personal laptop, and I take this personal laptop back at home, and um, just like a problem written in the scenario, even that one of the senior left with his laptop and now he's not even accessible. Now, how can you use your own personal computers on an audit? You have to use the audit firm computers, which belongs to the audit firm and needs to be submitted to the audit firm. If I'm using my personal computers, there is a very significant risk of a breach of confidentiality because I'm carrying the client information everywhere I'm going, and I can make misuse of that. Following completion of the audit senior had worked on audit of Yam, left Carrot, and failed to hand in their laptop computer before leaving. So see, one of the senior left. He failed to hand over his laptop before he left. No backups of the working paper were made during the field work owing to the internet connection at Yam premises. Now see, senior, look at the working papers. Look at the importance of the working papers, which must be there on a senior laptop. Senior must have done work on the risky areas. And the senior has left. He failed to submit the laptop before leaving. He took the laptop with him. Now, there is no backup of the work. So, no backups. So, that means the policies and procedures at Carrot Company are questionable. Why didn't you inform the staff to take backups daily? So the policies and procedures at Carrot Company are also questionable. Why have you allowed staff to use a personal computer? That's another policy and procedure which is questionable at Carrot Company. So using your personal computers, no backups, the staff left without submitting the laptop. So there are concerns on your policies and procedures you have made as Carrot and Company. The policies and procedures are not good. And more importantly, the senior has left. Look at the working papers he must be having, the working papers of the risky area, and now you have no evidence. Now you have no sufficient appropriate evidence on those risky areas. What will you do? Because he has left and you have no backups. Remote access to employee laptops is disabled as soon as the employee leaves. More wonderful. No remote access. The moment the employee leave, there are no remote access to the laptop. So the company immediately takes the remote access. So problems and problems and problems. And you know, the working papers are to be retained for 5 years as per ISA 230. So even that definition has not been met because you left, the laptop went with you, the records went with you. There is no documentation of the records, no record keepings of 5 years, no backups. No backups means you're not keeping up the records very well. So I hope Most of you picked up the problems I just mentioned you that it was a wonderful answers by majority and you all went fine. Lastly, engagement quality review. The engagement quality reviewer, Eddie, was appointed after the completion of the audit fieldwork and is a relatively new audit partner. So first of all, Eddie is a relatively new partner. So Eddie will take time to blend in or gel into the company's environment. She would take some time to get used to the policies and procedures of Carrot. And this person was appointed after completion of the audit fieldwork. Now, when once the audit fieldwork is completed and you sign the audit report, the time is very less. So after the audit fieldwork is completed and before you sign the audit report, you hardly have few weeks. And in this time, you have appointed a new engagement quality reviewer, and this person is a relatively new audit manager. So probably the time this person is coming in is not appropriate because he will have lack of understanding with the firm policies. Adherence to that would be difficult for him, and checking the quality review of Pumpkin Group would be difficult for this person. They had previously only worked on charity audits. See, this person has only worked on charity audits, and you're looking at Pumpkin Group, you're looking at a listed company, how complex that is. How could you expect a person who had looked at charity audits to do a quality control review of a Pumpkin Group? However, Kinga said Eddie was an ideal candidate for the role of EQR, and she had attended audit committee meetings of the Pumpkin Group over the past years. By attending the meetings, you're not resolving the issue because first of all, Eddie is a relatively new partner. Second, this person only have relevance to charities, never worked in complex environments, looking at complex groups, listed groups, or something like Pumpkin. So this person will face challenges and difficulties. So the definition Kinga is giving is very inappropriate. You know the article ISQM2, which tells you the properties and qualities of an engagement quality control reviewer that's not been met. And that ends the anonymous email. So there are loads of problems. Number one, turnip. Number two, yam. Number three, engagement quality reviewer. And in the whole scenario, the attitude of Kinga was very questionable. Leadership, direction, supervision. The way she was giving judgments and the familiarity threat of tenure was like the burning issues or the most important issues of quality management, which we have came across this scenario. So 12 marks, you have to write issues and actions. So look at the number of issues we have. Even you can write 50% of these issues with actions and you're wrapping up the answer. Just let me show you a quick good student answer before I give you the answer to the part A. If I show you one of a good student answer I found after reading through all this, okay, I hope you can find on your screens the answers now. Okay, this is one of the answer I found really effective for the reason I'll tell you. Can you see this answer on your screen? Part B, evaluate the quality management and ethical issues, all of you? Okay. Now, keeping the student anonymous, I found this answer to be the most good one, right? Part B, he the student first put the heading generic procedures being used. Then the student put the heading long association. Then the student put the heading unapproachable partner. Then lack of completeness in the audit working paper. Then engagement quality reviewer, and finished the answer. Now, how many times I have encouraged students to break your issues with headings? There were three headings: turnip, yam, and engagement quality reviewer. Even if you have used the three headings, turnip, and under the heading of turnip, how many issues you found, you write them down. Under the heading of yam, and under the heading of engagement quality reviewer. That approach is also fine. And even this approach, that for every issue you pick, you give a heading. Now look at the first one, generic procedures being used. We came across that, right? That they were using the standardized procedures. They were not customizing their procedures according to the scenario and situation. So see how the student wrote the answer. Just read through this. The student tells us, as identified by the anonymous auditor, the audit procedures currently applied are not tailored to the specific circumstances of Turnip, which holds a highly valued inventory of precious stones and metals. Under the principles of quality management, it is essential that all procedures are designed in line with unique risk and characteristics of each client, regardless of the length of the client relationship. Failing to do so may lead to inappropriate procedures being performed and insufficient evidence being obtained, potentially compromising the audit quality. Look at this. This is the most wonderful thing you will see in the student answer. Failing to do so may lead to inappropriate procedures being performed and insufficient audit evidence being obtained, potentially compromising the audit quality. Issue and the impact of the issue, the implication of the issue. How many times the student miss the implication of the issue? If we are using the generic procedure, what will go wrong? What will be the implication? So every time you're thinking about writing an issue, it's not just the issue you are thinking about, it's issue plus the implication. Implication is what will go wrong? And the student wrote what will go wrong, that you will gather you will be gathering insufficient evidence, you will be performing inappropriate procedures because you're not tailoring them according to the situation. Then the student wrote about the long association. The engagement partner, Kinga, has been associated with the group for 10 years, which exceeds the 7-year maximum rotation period required for listed clients. In such case, a 5-year cooling off period must be followed to preserve auditors' independence. Now, on the cooling off period, we know there are different jurisdictions. We are following a principle-based approach in AAA. Now, the cooling off period is 2 years. The cooling off period is also 5 years. So even if a student wrote 2 years, I didn't mark it wrong because in different jurisdictions, we have different answers. So this student wrote 5-year cooling off period, which also exists because you're looking at an international stream of the AAA paper. So that's very acceptable. In such cases, a 5-year cooling off period must be followed. Continuing beyond this limit will pose a significant familiarity threat. This person knows that it's a partner. So this person wrote significant familiarity threat because it relates with Kinga. And it's already 10 years since Kinga is serving. So significant familiarity threat, as the partner may overlook deficiencies and rely too heavily on the past experience, both which appear to be evident here. Given the partner full confidence in risk assessment, this situation compromises the audit quality and increases the risk of an inappropriate opinion being issued. So what's the implication? You might give an inappropriate opinion, and as a partner, you're not demonstrating the skeptical mindset, or you're not demonstrating the due care which is required from the audit. Look at the way you're writing each issue with action. The action was written over here, right? That you have to rotate the partner after 7 years and need to bring the cooling off. Even the first situation, the action was written, right? Uh, it is essential that audit procedures are designed in line with unique risks. That's the action. So 2 marks per paragraph, 1 mark for issue, 1 mark for action. In the second paragraph, long association, 1 mark for action, 1 mark for issue. Unapproachable partner. The group partner should be available throughout the audit to address any issues or questions that arise. If the partner is unwilling or too busy to support the team, it raises concern about whether the audit should have been accepted at all. Good. Comments suggesting that basic queries don't deserve a response reflect a careless attitude towards the serious responsibilities. Careless attitude. Very good choice of words. Such behaviors from a senior partner not only undermines the quality of the audit, but also damage the firm reputation, wonderful, and the professional credibility, and also increase your liability and negligence if later the shareholders take you to the court of law. So in every case, this person is writing the issue as well as the actions. Wonderful answer. I'll be sharing this answer with all of you in the WhatsApp group. You can catch on it. But this is the way to write in the answer. Another glimpse of another student answer, which used the three headings turnip, yam, and EQR. Look at this student answer for the part B. Again, the student went well with headings. You can see how many headings the student has used. Availability of the audit engagement partner. So the moment you read the heading, you immediately click which point the student is writing. Use of an auditor expert. Yes, there was a point on auditor expert that they were not using it. Inventory as a low risk area. Yes, they determined inventory as a low risk area. When you put headings, it becomes easier for the marker to check, because the moment the marker will read the heading, he or she can recall that which point you are writing. So rather than, I've seen student answers congested with paras and paras and paras and paras with no headings and no subheadings. That's a very wrong approach. Look at this student answer. Reliance on internal controls, directing to use internet for searching, no contact with the engagement partner, time pressure and confidentiality issues, working papers missing, engagement quality review, and finally, he wrote in conclusion. I like this way. I would encourage all of you that in a quality management answer, please write a conclusion. Conclude, because you must be writing a lot of issues above, but what's the conclusion? I think conclusion here is the role of Kinga. Conclusion here is the behavior of Kinga. The conclusion here is the lack of leadership, lack of direction, lack of supervision, which was the most significant issues. And on top of that, the familiarity. 10 years of working with Pumpkin. So these are burning issues which have compromised the quality of how audit was performed at Pumpkin. So try to give a conclusion. The previous student didn't give a conclusion, but if you are giving a conclusion, I will encourage. I have always encouraged giving conclusions on a quality management question, yes or no. I prefer that you give it, because you have to conclude which of the above are the more significant issues, or which of the above issues you wrote are more important, which compromise the quality of the audit. So giving a conclusion also adds to your professional marks in quality management question. So I'll be sharing these two scripts, wonderful answers, both of them. And look at this next one. This student just took the approach of main headings. The student wrote the heading of turnip, and whatever issue the student find under turnip, the student wrote it under every good paragraph. Can you see a break of paragraphs under turnip? Can you see the student has made a para break for every unique point you're writing? Even if you follow this approach, it is good, because every paragraph gives a new point. Look at the way to present the answers. Right? So look at this approach. Turnip company, and look at the paragraphs on a turnip company. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So almost writing 5 points on a turnip. But can you distinct them? Can you distinguish them? Yes, because they're given under different paragraphs. But if the student would have given subheadings, would have made the answer more remarkable. So these are three good answers I have choose on the question number 2, part B. I'll be making one file of this and sharing with you all, so you can just go over and revise if you have still failed to submit the mock or your answer was marked as wrong. See, then the student put the heading of YAM, then the engagement quality review, and the best part, again, the student put the heading of conclusion. So wonderful approach, right? At least the student followed my wordings in my lecture that do give conclusion to a quality management answer. Is everyone clear? I'll be sharing these three student answers with you on question 2, part B, under one file, one merged PDF file. I will be referring as student 1, student 2, and student 3. So you can just go through the answers. Each one of them were good, more or less the same marks, and different ways of answering. Headings or subheadings, giving conclusions, not giving conclusion. But my verdict is that give conclusions. Is that clear to all of you? Let's look at the part A, the most problematic part. Now, if you look at the part A, objective of the quality management system and how ISQM1 address that. Now, if I look at this student answer at least started with the word objective. The objective of the firm's system of quality management includes would include to ensure that efficient conduct of an audit to maintain public interest. So one of the reason the student wrote that one of the objectives, sorry, is to ensure an efficient conduct of an audit to maintain public interest in the profession. That's one objective. Also involve ensuring audit is performed of high quality standards to avoid any litigations against the company due to inappropriate opinions being issued. Further, the objective would be to retain the audit client by providing high quality audit within agreed deadlines with appropriate level of staff to ensure sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Wonderful, right? Now, this is one of the student answer which I found really effective on objectives. In the first two paragraphs, the student wrote about objectives. That the objective is to ensure an efficient conduct of the audit to maintain public trust in our profession as auditors. And number two, it involves performing high quality audits to provide litigations, to avoid litigation, sorry, and to give appropriate audit opinions and to perform the high quality audits to retain the clients. Because retaining the clients is also an objective. I want to retain my clients. I don't want to lose my clients. I want to offer them high quality service. I want to make them satisfied. I want to make the shareholder satisfied that they will reappoint me as an auditor. Now, these are objectives, right? So this student wrote a couple of objectives in the first two paragraphs for 2 marks. Then the student went to the second part and said, ISQM1 would help achieve these objectives through. Can you see this line here? Can all of you see this line? The ISQM1 would help achieve these objectives through. Is this student getting to the second part now, which is the part after and? Is the student getting to the second part? Now, the student carefully first wrote objectives. Wonderful. Then the student went down writing ISQM1 would help the firm achieve these objectives through. And then person starts to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the answer. The student didn't had a scattergun SOQM that the system of quality management has 8 components. Have you seen this answer here? Is the student telling us about that the system of quality management has 8 components? Has the student given 8 headings? No. But is the student bifurcating between objectives and how ISQM1 will help achieve these objectives? If you can give me quick answers. Are you understanding the bifurcation between the two parts? A wonderful answer being written by the student, right? At least assure me the student read the article. But look at another student answer. If I can find one for you where the scattergun approach was taken. Look at this. This student even talked about the main objective of the firm system of quality management is to ensure. At least the student started very well with the objective. And then after the objective, the student says, the ISQM1 has laid down 8 components to ensure that the objective of the firm are met appropriately. Okay, he tried connecting those 8 objectives with how ISQM1 addressed that. That's not even bad because the person wrote about the objectives and then the person wrote about how the 8 components connects with achieving these objectives. But because we had 8 marks and of those 8 marks, 2 marks were gone on the objective, we were left with 6 marks. So if I'm writing all the 8 components, look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. First of all, I'm calling myself into time management issues. And technically, if I'm writing all the 8 components with the objective, I'm writing an answer for 10 marks. I'm not writing an answer for 8 marks. And all of you say time management is an issue in AAA. But then why do such things, which calls you into time management issues? 2 marks for objectives, 6 marks for how ISQM1 addresses it. Yes, you can connect the system of quality management with how it addresses it. But if you're just putting the system of quality management 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with no connection with objective, that's bad. So even this student answer is good on your screen currently. Let's look at the third one. Right over here, even the student mentioned about a major objective of ISQM1 has to maintain the overall quality. And then he says, I don't know why he wrote this very first paragraph. To me, this first paragraph was totally wrong. I criticize this paragraph. But the second paragraph at least was telling the objective. So this second paragraph was perfectly right, this one. And then if you look at this student answer, this was pretty less. You can see 1 para, 2 para, 3 para, 4, and only 5 paragraphs for an 8 marks answer. Technically should have been 8. So if you want to see the best of the student answers for part B, all three of them are good. But if you want to see the best student answer for part A, this is the only one here, which to me is the best one, right in front of your screen. This is the best one. So I'll be sharing this as the best answer for part A, and the same student had a best answer for part B, but I'll also be sharing other student answer for part B, which I've shown you in the session because they're all wonderful answers. Now, again, if you want to see my answer, my approach to this, let me show you my approach. See, this is my answer. Can you just read it? The objective I wrote on your screen. If you can quickly read this objective, just here. If you can quickly read this objective and tell me I've read it. So first give the heading objective, right? Then under the objective heading, write the objective. Now there could be so many objectives, right? Providing a reasonable assurance, good quality audit, retaining the clients, boosting the public confidence. They could maintaining professional skepticism, exercising due care. There could be so many objectives, right? Why you have a quality management system in place. Then I give the second heading, how ISQM1 will help achieve these objectives. Now, this is from the article ISQM1. How ISQM1 will help achieve these objectives. Look at this answer under. Look at this answer. Principle-based approach, scalability and flexibility, proactive risk assessment, monitoring and evaluation, and it goes down uh, into continuous improvement and enhanced accountability. See, I wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2 marks for objective. If you want to read this, you can. I'll be sharing this answer with you. A principle-based approach, scalability and flexibility, proactive risk assessment, monitoring and evaluation. Look at my format. I'm giving headings. I'm giving headings. I'm breaking it between objective and how ISQM1 help achieve objective. Please try to make the life of the marker easier by segregating your answer into headings and subheadings. So everyone knows, okay, this is the answer for the first part. This is the answer for the second part. At least have a split. So this is the way you should have written the answer for the part A, but the one student answer I've shown you was very good. So I'll be sharing a lot of good answers with you under one file for the question 2, part A and B. And you can just read through them to identify where you went wrong if you got a bad opinion or a bad wordings from me in terms of your question number 2. Yes, one sentence under a subheading is fine because it's just a 1 mark answer, right? Knowledge. In a knowledge answer, this much is fine. But look at my sentences. Look at my sentences, Aswati. Is my sentences complete or they're vague? Are they making sense when you read them? So sentences have to be complete, but in a knowledge question, you can save your time. In a knowledge question, don't drag your answer to like 3 to 4 sentences because you're killing your time for the rest of the questions. In a case-based question, you can write 2 to 3 sentences per valid point. I hope you're clear on that, Aswati. Okay. Now just move on to the next question, which to me had some issues. If I take you to the practice platform, first let me show you the question, and then let guide you what was the issue. Okay, now this was a typical question on syllabus area E. You know, that is one mandatory question in section B. One of the question has to be from syllabus area E, completion and reporting, and this was exactly the case. Now, first of all, this question was telling us, it's the 1st of July. You are a manager of Bob, a firm of chartered certified accountant, responsible for the audit of Rashid Company for the year ended 31st of March. The company is a listed soft drink manufacturer and distributor. The financial statement recognized a revenue of 257 million, profit of 42.4 million, and the total assets of 275.6 million. Materiality has been set by the audit engagement partner in accordance with the internal quality procedure of Bob at 2.2 million. Is the materiality given? 2.2 million. I found so many students calculating the materiality when it was given. Why? Look at that statement in yellow. Materiality is 2.2 million. Anything above this is material, below this is immaterial. I found so many students calculating the materiality on revenue and profit before tax and total assets. Why? When the materiality is given, just use it. How many times I've mentioned these in my classes as well, that if the materiality threshold is given, it's given. You have to use it. It's a listed company, right? That's very important. It's a listed company. And we are responsible for the audit of Rashid Company. That's the client. And we are Bob, right? The audit firm. So just highlight the important informations. And the most important information was the materiality was given. And now in recent papers, even in section B, we are seeing that the examining team is giving us the materiality. But yes, if it is not given, then you will calculate it. Okay, now just let's see what was the requirements. And I'll come across the issues, right? Okay, if we open up the requirements, very typical requirements you have seen in the past papers. Using the summary of uncorrected misstatements in Exhibit 1. So there is a summary of uncorrected misstatement in Exhibit 1, which you have to use. Explain the matters which should be discussed in relation to each of the uncorrected misstatement with management. How many times I've taught you this question? There were 3 matters. You had 9 marks. So you will give the heading of each matter. And under each matter, what will you be discussing with management? First of all, the materiality. Is it material? Is it not? Secondly, it's accounting treatment. What's wrong in the accounting treatment the management has done, and what's the right accounting treatment? Because in every matter, the treatment could be wrong. So telling what wrong the management did, and as per the relevant standard, what's the right? So wrong and right, and then telling what is understated and what is overstated. That gives you 3 marks. Wrong treatment, what management has done. Right treatment, what the standard tell. Is one point. Materiality is 1 point. Under an overstatement is 1 point. 3 points per matter, and you had 3 matters. And you wrap up the 9 marks. Materiality was given. So you will just be comparing every matter with the $2.2 million given. And the exhibit 1 is telling us about misstatements. Assuming that the management does not adjust either of the misstatement. Look at this word, does not adjust either of the misstatements. Explain the actions to be taken by the auditor and justify, explain the actions to be taken by the auditor. So if the management is not adjusting the misstatements, what actions will you take? Number one. And number two, justify an appropriate audit opinion and explain the impact on the report. Was this question asking for justify an audit opinion, a single one, an aggregate one? In a couple of answers, I have seen the student giving the individual opinions. In the part 2, in the part 2, the examining team is asking for justify an appropriate audit opinion. What does an means? A single. How many times this is being taught in the class? Justify an appropriate audit opinion means an aggregate opinion for all the three matters because it says the management is not adjusting any of them. And explain the impact on the report. This question has been done so many times in the past paper. You need to write the actions, right? What actions will you take? Probably you will be discussing with the management that if they don't resolve these issues, it will lead down to a modified opinion, or you will try to alert the management that if these issues are not addressed, the financial statements will be materially misstated and it will lead down to a modified opinion. You're just trying to inform management that if you don't do it, I'll be issuing a qualified opinion. So actions is something where you still try to reach a conclusion with management. You try to get support of the management. But if even the management is reluctant, then you will finally go down and issue a qualified opinion. You are not required to consider the impact of the key audit matters section in the audit report. Because in the part A, are we talking about misstatements? Are we talking about something being under and overstated? Are we talking about a material misstatement in the part A? Yes. How can a material misstatement leads to a CAM? That's quite logical. And even for the illogical students, the examining team has put a note number. You're not required to consider CAM because the problem with the student is they will think, oh, it's a listed company. Rashid is a listed company. And they will try to bring the CAM even though there is no space of CAM. I think a couple of scripts, I'll be showing you one very funny script where the student has mentioned CAM and everything, just to be on the safe side, right? That if this gets wrong, I get marks here. If this gets wrong, I get marks here. The scattergun approach, right? That student literally mentioned a qualified opinion. Then in the next paragraph, he mentioned adverse opinion. Then in the next paragraph, he mentioned CAM. So he's just trying to play safe, right? That if the examining team put 0 on adverse, put 0 on CAM, at least I get marks on qualified. Not at all, right? You're putting a very bad impression if for a material misstatement you are writing a CAM. How many times I've mentioned that a material misstatement results in either a qualified opinion or if it is a material and pervasive results into an adverse opinion. How will a material misstatement results in a CAM? Justify me. And even for the weaker student, look at the note number. The note number is saying no CAM. Despite that, you wrote CAM. Wonderful. Now, then you ask your tutor why we fail in AAA paper. You fail in AAA paper because you don't adhere to the instruction of your examiner. And you fail in the AAA paper because you adopt a scattergun approach. You try to write everything. If something is a contingent liability and it's very clearly given that there is a possible outflow, the student will still write probable outflow, possible outflow. The student will still tell a provision or a contingent liability. Why are you wasting your time? If there is a legal case, but you're not sure what will happen to the legal case, then you can write both sides. But if it is given in the legal case that the lawyer is saying there will be a possible outflow, then fine, ends the story. It's a contingent liability. Why wasting time on a provision? Even some student mentioned about contingent asset. They're just trying to dump the ICE 37. I don't know why. The second part was the best of all, right? Using the exhibit to comment on the ethical and professional issues and the action necessary. This was done best by all because you're just asking to comment on the ethical and professional issues and actions just for 6 marks, right? So 6 marks means 6 points, issues and actions. So that was not a lengthy answer, and most of the students pick up the issue here and wrote wonderfully well. But the problem I had was in A1 and A2. Even though majority of them did well, there is some lesson for you to learn, which I would like to show you. Look at this first thing. Summary of the uncorrected misstatement. How many times in the class we have done a question like this where a schedule of uncorrected misstatement is given? You cannot say no. Plenty of time we've done a question like such. What happens with student I don't understand? It says the audit of the financial statement for 31st of March is almost complete, and you are preparing for a discussion with the management about misstatements identified in the financial statement audit. Preparing for discussion with management about misstatements identified in the financial statement audit. So what is the table telling us? The table is telling us about the misstatements you have identified, and you will discuss these misstatements with management. The audit working paper contains the summary of the uncorrected misstatement. Now, these are the summary of the uncorrected misstatements, which you would like to discuss with management. So the misstatement is already given. And in a reporting question, how many times I've told that in a reporting question, you need to determine the materiality not on the full amount, but on the misstatement amount. Tell me, is it right or wrong? In a reporting question, do we find the materiality on the whole amount or only on the misstatement amount? Because it's a reporting question. I'm waiting for your answers. On a whole amount or on the misstated amount? Misstated amount, right? And is the misstated amount given in the schedule in front of your screen? Is the misstated amount given in front of your screen? 5 million, 0.35 million? A lot of time I've seen student taking the full values. Why? Is it an audit risk question? Is it a ROM question? Is it an evidence question? We do that in those questions, right? But this is basically a reporting question where the misstatement is given. Now, if we go quickly, look at the misstatement number 1. How much is the value of the misstatement 1? 5 million. And what was the materiality level for us? 2.2 million. So is the misstatement 1 above the materiality threshold of 2.2 million? Hence, it's material. Look at the misstatement number 2, 0.35 million. Is 0.35 million greater than 2.2 million? No. So is it material? No, it's immaterial. So misstatement number 1 is material because it exceeds the $2.2 million. The misstatement number 2 is immaterial because it's $0.35 million. We're talking about on the individual basis, right? Not on the aggregate basis. And for the misstatement 3, we have not been given any value. That means it's a disclosure. You have to be very sure in the exam. If a misstatement is given in the schedule of uncorrected misstatement, does not have a value, so you are pretty sure this is basically a disclosure. We'll see the disclosure. Is everyone clear with the material? With the first one, $5 million is material and $0.35 million is not material. And is $5 million debiting the P&L? Is $5 million debiting the P&L? So that means currently the profits are you have not yet debited the $5 million, right? So currently the profits are overstated, right? Because you have to recognize this $5 million. You are asking the management to adjust this $5 million, debit the $5 million. So currently the $5 million has not yet been debited by the management. So is the profit overstated by $5 million? Yes or no? And what about 0.35 million? In 0.35 million, we are saying credit the P&L, credit the P&L. So that means the profit is understated because this is a help to your profit, right? $0.35 million is a help. So management has not recognized something in the profit. So 0.35 million means the profit is understated currently. So when you find the aggregate misstatement, how many times I've told you that you minus the debit from credit? I've seen students finding the aggregate misstatement as 5.35 million. How interesting that is. I found students calculating the aggregate misstatement at $5.35 million and you're becoming future accountants. One is the debit to P&L, one is the credit to P&L. How can you accumulate them to 5.35 million? I found few students finding $4.65 million as an aggregate misstatement. Quantitative aggregation, right? You cannot aggregate the disclosure. Quantitative aggregation. So quantitative aggregation is $4.65 million. Everyone agrees to me. A lot of students have not done aggregation, or even if they've done it, they've done it at 5.35 million. Yes, even if the amount is immaterial, we'll write the correct treatment, right? Because it's a reporting question, Huma. In a reporting question, even if it is immaterial, we'll write everything because on aggregate basis, an immaterial thing will also become material. Is that right, Huma? 0.35 is individually immaterial, but on an aggregate basis, it's material. $4.65 million. So either the student did the wrong aggregation or did not perform the aggregation. Only the few students I saw did 4.65 million. Next, the first one deals with the franchise agreement. Now, in the franchise agreement, I saw some students look at this $50 million. They took the materiality on $50 million. No, you have to take the materiality on the misstatement. The misstatement is $5 million. $50 million is the full amount. So please ensure that you read through the questions well. You have been given a misstatement in a reporting question. You have to calculate the misstatement materiality. And the materiality was given. I've seen students dividing this 5 million. Look at this 5 million here. I've seen students dividing this 5 million with what? They're dividing this 5 million with this revenue 257.1 million and they're finding a percentage. They're dividing it with profit 42.4 million, finding a percentage, and they're dividing it by the total asset and finding a percentage. Why? Isn't the materiality given? If it was not given, then you would have divided the 5 million with the revenue, with the profit, and with the total asset. On whichever factor it becomes material, it was material. But that approach was wrong here, right? Because you have been given the materiality. So please don't do such blunders, right? So there were three areas, right? Given in this schedule. One is the franchise agreement. I think in this, the problem was impairment. They have not recognized the impairment of $5 million. That was the problem. In the second, the forward contract, there was a speculative contract which needs to be treated through fair value through P&L, and the speculative contract was not treated through fair value through P&L. It's given over here that the cost of $1 million and the fair value was $1.35 million. So you have to take the $0.35 million through P&L, right? So that was basically a gain on the fair value, which needs to go through the P&L, and that was a speculative nature forward contract. And then in the legal case, it was very clearly written that the company is subject to a legal action by public. Rashid Company legal advisor has confirmed that it was unlikely that the action will be successful. There is a possibility of losing the case on the outcome of similar actions in other countries. Look at this statement by the lawyer and tell me, by looking at this statement of lawyer, is it a provision or a contingent liability disclosure? Had it been a provision, it would have been included in the schedule above. Had it been a provision, it would have been included in the schedule above with a debit and credit. But was it included in the schedule above? No. So that was very sure it's a contingent liability. Despite that, the student wrote about provision. If it was a provision, then why the amount was not given in the schedule above? Think about it realistically. So it was a contingent liability, and the problem was the management was not giving a disclosure. The disclosure should be given, otherwise, the financial statements will be materially misstated. We know disclosures are material by nature, whichever disclosure we talk about. Disclosures are material by nature. So we had three issues, and you had to work on the three issues. Just let me show you a glimpse of a student answer and the problems. Okay, look at the first one. I found this as this is a wrong answer. I'm just showing you one thing for the sake of knowledge. See, I don't understand what happened to the student. The student was writing about the forward contract, and the forward contracts were speculative in nature, and you have to take the gain through the P&L as per the IFRS 9. So look at this student here. Look at this. Just read the student answer and find what's the most funny thing in this answer. I'm giving you 1 minute. Just read this and tell me what's the funny thing here. ACCA Code of Ethics has to do what with IFRS 9, or ACCA Code of Ethics has to do what with accounting treatments? I have never found ACCA Code of Ethics has any relevance to accounting treatments. This was a new learning for me. This is the problem with the student. They have overthinking in exam. I don't know what are they putting and why are they putting. ACCA Code of Ethics coming in a forward contract. ACCA Code of Ethics coming in an accounting treatment. I was really amazed. So do you find the problem in the student answer? Look at the other one. This to me was the best one, right? The student started telling us in the very first go. The student told that the license is $50 million and it's been amortized over 6 years, which means the current value of the license is 40 million. So the student picked up very well that the license is 50, but after 6 years of amortization, it's 40. And the present value of the cash flow is 35 million. And on that basis, there should be an impairment of 5 million. So in the first paragraph, the students sum up the issue. But then in the second paragraph, look at this one and tell me what's wrong here. Despite the first paragraph being so good that you picked up the 50 million, you picked up the 40 million, you picked up the 35 million, you picked up that $5 million is impairment, what wrong you did in the second paragraph? Yes, materiality was already given. You would have just said in the second paragraph that $5 million of the impairment to be recognized is material because it exceeds $2.2 million, as it exceeds the $2.2 million materiality threshold given. So are you finding something logical here? That what students do in exam and then they say why we failed? So this was a big cross. This was a big tick. Rashid company does not intend on impairing the intangible assets. This could be discussed with management as why they don't want to correct the accounting treatment. If they still don't correct it, then then uh, then tell about the impact we have on the financial statement. Impact on the financial statement? Can't you just tell the impact yourself? Can't you tell that because the assets are not impaired, so the intangible assets are overstated and the profit is understated? You need to write the under and over statement. You need to write the under and over statement, right? Write the under and over statement as a matter to discuss with management. So not write the journal word impact, but also tell what is under and overstated. So definitely management was not recognizing the impairment. So you need to Uh, mention the under and over statement, right? And the reason I'm showing you this answer is for this. Look at this answer. I'm giving you 2 minutes. Can you just read the part in front of your screen currently? Can you just read this part? This part, sorry. This is very, very funny answer I got. The student probably uh, did everything here, right? Firstly, the student is saying that the franchise agreement is materially misstated and there has been no disclosure for the contingent liability. Okay, good. These matters are material but pervasive. Material and but pervasive. These matters are material and not pervasive. But he said that these are material and but pervasive. So that means they're both. So a qualified opinion should be issued. This will modify the report. So firstly, he said material but not pervasive. He said material but pervasive. So he mistakenly wrote the wrong statement and then he went to the right opinion, qualified. But again, in this part, we had to do the aggregate misstatements and we had to give an aggregate opinion. So he was technically wrong by giving answers like this. But look at the language. The title should be adverse opinion. In the second paragraph, I don't know from where adverse opinion has come in. Because in the first, you concluded on qualified opinion. And in the second paragraph, you have come across adverse all of a sudden. I don't know what happened to the student. First, he said qualified. All of a sudden, in the second paragraph, he said adverse. Interesting. And then the worst, the CAM paragraph will be included, will include these issues to tell why this matter was considered significant. Do a CAM paragraph tell about misstatements, something not recorded, something not recognized, something not disclosed? Is that the purpose of CAM paragraph? Despite the fact the examining team was telling you not to write about CAM. Now tell me, if a student writes an answer like this, you come out of the exam hall, you're happy you will pass. The day your result comes, you failed at 44. And then you message your tutor, why I failed at 44? Because you are the best judge of what you did in the real exam. You might have done things like this in real exam because you know what you write. You know what you write in your exams on Monday. If you write something like this and you are happy that I'll pass because I told examiner about adverse opinions, about qualified opinions because the examiner didn't know about it. The examiner had no knowledge about CAM and adverse and qualified, so I should give him the knowledge. And I give him every possible knowledge. The examiner will be so happy that this is such a calibered student and he's writing everything. Are you getting some message? Are you getting some message what we do in reporting questions? What blunders we do in reporting questions? Now look at the one which is good. Okay, now look at this answer. This student started well, saying the uncorrected misstatement in respect of a franchise agreement of $5 million is material to the financial statement as it exceeds the materiality threshold of $2.2 million. Wonderful. So this student started very well, comparing it with materiality and concluding it's material. As per I-36, where there are indicators of impairment, impairment review should be conducted. That is comparing the recoverable amount to the carrying amount. If the carrying amount is higher, then the asset should be impaired. Wonderful, writing about the treatment. In this case of the franchise agreement, the carrying amount is $40 million. There are indication of impairment as due to the tax imposed on the sugary drinks by the government would reduce the demand for the franchise product. The sale demand would be back to normal levels after 2 years is irrelevant as current condition for value in use and fair values is considered. So you consider the current conditions, not the future. Therefore, the value in use determined by Rashid Company for this product is 35 million. which should be compared to the carrying amount of 40, and the franchise product should be written down by $5 million, impaired by $5 million. As the management does not intend to record impairment, the intangible and profits would be overstated. Intangibles are overstated, the profits are understated. The profits are understated, right? Sorry, the profits are overstated. Sorry. The profits are overstated and the intangibles are overstated as well because the impairment is not yet recognized. So see, this is a wonderful answer. Forward contract. The uncorrected misstatement in respect of the forward contract is $0.35 million, which is immaterial to the financial statement below the threshold of 2.2 million. As per IFRS 9, derivative contracts, which are held for speculative purpose, should be accounted for as fair value through profit and loss. And the fair value gains or losses at each year will be recorded in the statement of profit and loss. Wonderful. In this case, the second contract entered for a different commodity has been entered into for a speculative purpose and therefore should be accounted for through fair value through P&L. The derivative should be recorded at 1.35 million in the statement of financial position and the gain should be taken to the profit and loss account. The only mistake the student did was that he mistakenly put the value of the gain wrongly. Despite he put 0.35 million here, he mistakenly wrote 0.5 million here. But that was just a slight issue the student did. Apart from that, the way the answer is structured, put in is excellent. Legal actions. Although the information given is not possible, it's not possible to determine the legal claim is material by amount, though the auditor may decide that it's material by nature due to sensitive issues to the public. So he's saying that it could be material by nature. Probably you could have been very blunt here that disclosures are material by nature, and particularly the legal cases are important for the shareholders. It was a listed company, so any disclosures about legal cases are important to shareholders. So you could have put it more affirmative. As per I-37, a provision is recognized when there is a probable outflow of economic benefits, which can be reliably measured. However, the likelihood of outflows is possible than a contingent liability. I think the student just wasted time about discussing the probable and possible. It was very clear. You could have written that as per the lawyer, it has a possible outflow. So it should be recognized, it should be disclosed as a contingent liability disclosure. You could have saved time in the para 2. So probably unnecessarily writing about provisions, right? No need to write about provision because it was very sure it was a contingent liability. In case of Rashid Company, legal advisor has suggested there is a possibility of losing the case. So a disclosure should be given in the notes. As directors have not disclosed, it will result in the financial statements being materially misstated. And also it tests the integrity of the management because they're not giving a disclosure. Now then the student went down to the part B, assuming management does not adjust the misstatement, actions and opinion. Actions, he gave the heading of actions. He wrote the actions over here, 1, 2, 3. And then he went down writing opinion. In the opinion, when considering the aggregate impact of the lack of impairment of the franchise agreement, the disclosure of the legal action, and incorrect treatment of the hedge contract, these would result in material misstatements due to non-compliance with IFRS standard. Then the student went down mentioning a qualified opinion, a basis for qualified opinion, followed by a basis of qualified opinion paragraph. The only mistake the student did was that the student didn't calculated the aggregate misstatement of $4.65 million. Despite the opinion was right, material qualified. Excellent. Only mistake was should have quoted that the aggregate misstatements are $4.65 million, which is above the materiality threshold of $2.2 million in full stop. Furthermore, the disclosure not given is material by nature. Full stop. Then you would have said that because these are material misstatements, it will lead down to a qualified opinion followed by a basis of qualified opinion paragraph, and this will lead to a modified audit report. So I hope you're fine with the ways of writing the answers and the blunders the student made. And then the second part, ethical and professional issues, I'll be sharing the student answer with you, as this was a good answer overall. Is that clear to all of you about how to go about writing the answers? So just a quick summary of the issues, which I investigated from like over 162 mocks I've reviewed. This is the summary of issues for question number 3. Part A, explain the matters which should be discussed with management in relation to the uncorrected misstatement for 9 marks. The student effectively discussed the forward contract, franchise, and legal cases, clearly addressing materiality, risk in accounting treatment, and risk in the accounting treatment, correct treatment, and the impact on the financial statement. Some student disregarded the $2.2 million materiality threshold provided in the question, calculating their own materiality based on profit and total asset. This is the issue I addressed, right? So you disregarded the $2.2 million and you calculated your own materiality. But mostly student went fine with legal case, forward contract. They had a knowledge of forward contract, speculative nature, fair value through P&L. They had a good knowledge on impairment. They had a good knowledge on contingent liability. Part A2, assuming that the management does not adjust the misstatements, explain the actions and the appropriate opinion. Most students overlook the aggregate misstatement calculation. That is $5 million minus $4.35 million is equal to $4.6 million. However, they generally recognize that the aggregate misstatements were material, not pervasive, warranting a qualified opinion. The part B, doing the ethical and professional issues, student performed well, identifying and explaining issues effectively. The scenario facilitated productive discussion on ethical and professional matters, which are essential component of the AAA syllabus. So aggregate misstatement, missing on the materiality, or something I shown you that the student writing about adverse opinion or CAM that was overthought, or student mistakenly wrote ACCA Code of Ethics in a forward contract made no sense. So blunders like such could be really like risky in exam paper. It when the marking team is checking your exam papers. So I hope you are all fine now with the question 2 and 3. If you have got your mock results and you've got good remarks on your questions, so that's good enough. If you got some negative remarks, I will be sharing the question 2 and 3 I have discussed in the session along with the recording of this session shortly, so you can catch on it and just go through it and find ways to increase your marks in the upcoming exams on Monday. Please don't do the blunders which I've shown you. These are small blunders which can cause loss of marks. So either not aggregating, using the wrong materiality, writing ACCA Code of Ethics in an accounting standard equation, or doing a scattergun approach for writing opinions, or something like in the question number 2 I talked about, that in the question number 2, reading the question was important because most of the student missed the objective of ISQM1, and they just took the scattergun approach of writing the 8 components of system of quality management when the question was asking something different. And then the quality management and ethical issue was done very well by the student. There are problems in question 1. There are problems uh, in the question 1 I found over the 162 scripts I've reviewed in. I'll be sharing my summary of the problems, going over the question number 1 and guiding you what best you could have done and sharing a wonderful student answer with you on the question 1, which I found the most effective. Okay, if anyone have not yet got responded to the mock, despite you've sent the emails earlier, it could have been overlooked. So if you can just re-forward that, Yashwanta and Ellen. Arisha, I hope you've got you've seen the student answers, right? How they're writing into the answers. Section B answers are not difficult. You just need to look into the requirement and you need to start the answer according to the requirement. You need to uh, like keep the flow of the answer according to what's been asked in the requirement. Look at the comma, look at the and, break your answer, give headings in your answer, segregate your answer very well. You will lose 1 mark if you've done the wrong aggregation, right? Okay, is everyone fine with this mock debrief? I'm just winding it up, and I'll meet you back again for the mock debrief, question number 1 later in the day. Okay, all the best to all of you, and stay tuned for the debrief session 2 coming soon, and this will be uploaded and shared with you shortly.